Next up, we have Gareth Manderson, the CEO of Core Lithium. Gareth's mining career includes 3 decades experience leading mining and processing operations and delivering resource projects. He finished a 22-year tenure at Rio Tinto to join Core as CEO on the 5th of August last year, and that was just 4 days after Core's first ever Diggers presentation. Under Gareth's leadership, the company commenced mining at the Grants Pit, completed project construction, and produced and sold first lithium concentrate to bring Finniss, Australia's newest lithium mine, online. And Gareth's and Core's focus now is to drive operational performance, deliver off-take agreements, and use exploration and growth to drive long-term shareholder value. So please welcome Gareth to the stage. Thank you, Gareth.
So thank you very much, and thank you for taking the time to sit and listen to the presentation today. The first thing I'd like to do is recognise the Wangata people, the traditional owners and custodians of the land in and around Karratha, in and around the Diggers and Dealers Conference. And I would also like to recognise the Larrakia people, the saltwater people of the Darwin region, which is where our operations are in the Northern Territory. Core Lithium has started with what I would call the minimum viable project. What's the smallest resource, the smallest processing facility, the smallest mine that you can package together, produce concentrate and generate cash. It requires some faith in the resource, and as I'll show you shortly, you can see that resource is building over time. We've started production out of the Grants Pit. We're very close to the Darwin port, about 88 kilometres, and we've started quite quickly. So in less than 2 years, we've gone from breaking ground to producing concentrate. In less than 6 years, we've gone from finding lithium to producing concentrate. It's now time to start thinking about building the business. And there are 3 things that we're focused on. Firstly is establishing the business in around the grants. We're learning to be a miner. We're becoming a mining operation. We're learning to process and produce concentrate. The second thing that we're focused on is our near-term project, BP33. So what does the business look like moving forward? Grants gets us started. BP33 will be the mine that will more than likely cornerstone the business moving forward. And then the third piece of work, as I said, the strategy requires that we operate and find and design further mining projects moving forward. So the third piece that we're focused on is understanding what the opportunities are that are afforded to Core across the leases that we hold in the Northern Territory. And I'll cover some of those shortly. So the last quarter has been quite a busy one. We've produced and shipped our first concentrate. We've shipped 2 cargoes. At the moment, we're actually in the process of producing, and the cargo is accumulating at the Darwin port for shipment of our 3rd cargo of concentrate, which is the first one into the offtake agreements. And we're also producing a fines product, which is also accumulating at the port for shipment shortly. We've entered the quarter in a good cash position, over 150 million. We've seen Andrea Hall join the business, so you can see that the board is also growing, and we're bringing in additional talent. And we've been focused on building the team. So what's the executive team look like? What does the leadership team need to look like? And what does the team, the group of people that are going to take the grants operation forward and look at growing the business? We have, I think, 3 levers for value. One is how we operate. And so the Chief Operating Officer is one key role. How we sell product, where we place it, what the engagement is with various customers and commercial opportunities we have, so our commercial EGM. And then also the third lever for value for Core is how we actually identify those opportunities through exploration and start to turn some of those exploration targets into mining projects. And so we've got an exploration and development EGM who's just started with us this month. And that team is starting to build the infrastructure, the team, the culture that's required to take the business forward. So in the first category is learning to be an operator and developing the mining business. So grants gets us started. Let's use that opportunity to build the infrastructure, the systems and the processes, the knowledge, the know-how to mine, to process, to ship, and manage the logistics. So how do we actually build that mining business? Keep in mind, 2 years ago, Core was an explorer. We're moving into that mining operations phase, and building the business, the systems and the processes required to do that. As we've started about 14 weeks of operations prior to the guidance that we issued 2 weeks ago, we've taken a lead on that, and we provided a look ahead into what the next 2 years of operation will look like. There's a couple of things that we're focusing on: mining productivity and how the plant is operating. We're probably into our third phase of trials in terms of understanding that grade recovery curve and starting to work out the parameters that will optimise the operation of the facility. We're seeing some good results there. We also expect that some additional equipment will be required, and we'll start to actually put that improvement plan moving forward in the coming months. The second piece of work that we're focused on is BP33, the near-term project. And it just as a demonstration of the prospectivity of the leases in and around the Finniss area, where Grants and BP33 are, we've seen after the 22 drilling more than a 130% increase in the resource at BP33. We need to move with that project at pace. We want to preserve the concentrate schedule, so we've divided the project up into 2 phases. We're doing those two pieces of work. We're doing those 2 pieces of work in parallel. The first one is to get the surface infrastructure in place, the box cut, which will be covered and then backfill to provide or reduce the water catchment of the box cut. That'll take us to the portal. And we're also completing the surface works, the infrastructure required for managing water. The second piece that we're doing is to lift the lid off the feasibility study, have a look at the expanded resource, do additional drilling, infill as well as geotech, to understand what the mine plan will look like, what the opportunities may be there, so that when we come to FID in quarter 1 2024, it's a project that is well understood and will straight out of the gate move well. The data that we have at the moment around the metallurgy for BP33 compared to Grants is telling us that they're fairly similar ore bodies. We're doing additional geomet drilling in BP33 to confirm that, but essentially what that also means is that any of the work that we do around existing process facility, BP33 will benefit from. So remember, start early, produce concentrate, learn how to process the ore body, and get the systems and processes up and running, which will give us a good lead-in for BP33. I mentioned exploration. We've had a slight strategic shift in terms of just from going to find resource to actually finding mines and proving that up. And what we've actually seen in 2022 is a continuation of that good turnover investment in exploration. So about $2 of exploration spend is turning into a tonne of resource, and that seems to be the case. Now, we are moving more to actually starting to think about where the next mines may be. So if you look at the northern part of Finniss, and on the right-hand side of this slide, you can see some pink dots. These are the prospects that are proving up, and we're focusing on those to understand what a mining operation may look like in those and work out what the sequence may be. In parallel with the exploration effort, we've established a studies team to focus specifically on, well, what do you have to believe for this to be a project? What do we know and understand from the exploration drilling? What additional work needs to be done? What does geomet, geotech, what does the mine design, the mine plan look like, and what will sequencing look like? So the focus is 70 or 80% of our exploration spend up in that northern part of Finniss on that effort. But we also know that we've got plenty of other ground to test. So I'll talk about that shortly. But about the rest of those funds, about 20-30% of our exploration spend is looking at the other territory that's in and around Finniss, but also Shoebridge and Anningie Creek, which are in other locations within the territory. From that work in the northern part of Finniss, what we've identified is that Carlton is more than likely going to be the next mine after BP33. Now, BP33 had a 130% increase in resource, but Carlton actually had a 50% increase. We went from about 4 million tonnes of resource to over 6. So we're doing additional infill drilling. We're doing some additional extension drilling around Carlton to understand what that will look like at the moment as we speak, quite literally. And we've also got a study that's underway to understand what Carlton may look like in terms of a mining opportunity coming after BP33. And I mentioned additional exploration targets across the Northern Territory. So about 100 kilometres directly south. So Finnis itself, Grants, is about 88 kilometres from the port of Darwin, and you go kind of around to get there. It's about 20 kilometres as the crow flies across the harbour. And Shoebridge is about 100 kilometres south, close to road infrastructure. We completed some initial soil sampling and the ambient noise tomography, so a tool that kind of helps look into the earth to see where the pegmatites may be. And from that work, we've designed a drilling program and some additional exploration work in Shoebridge for this year. And we also have some ground about 300 kilometres north of Alice Springs, but close to the rail network that goes straight through to Darwin. And that land area is about 4 times the size of, or 4 times the land area of Finnis. So Anningie Barrow Creek also looks like a good opportunity. We need to get down there and take a look at we're doing what everyone else does in terms of look at tin tantalum, look at some of the other information that's there, and design some initial test work in Anningie Barrow Creek. But both of these locations, we are seeing some analogy with surface presentation that we've seen at Finnis. And so, building that capacity and capability, one of the things that Core has been quite good at is that exploration piece. And so we're beginning to design programs in and around Anningie Barrow Creek. And as I said, with Shoebridge, we've got an opportunity to do some drilling this year based on the work that was done last year. So what does all that mean? Well, on the far right-hand side of this slide, we have the Grants operation. We're also doing some study work to understand if it's possible to economically capture some of the ore that we know is underneath the mine plan at Grants at the moment. So does that mean laying the walls back? If we come to more competent rock, are we able to go narrow and deeper? Are there some other opportunities that we might be able to explore there? And then as you move across to BP33 as a project in delivery in terms of the early works and a feasibility study well advanced and progressing on the basis of that significant increase in resource, making sure that we have the best frame project to successfully execute BP33. And the objective is to approach the board in Q1 2024 for FID. Carlton, as I talked about before, so we've seen a significant uplift in resource in the last 12 months. We're doing additional drilling there. We've also started a study to understand what Carlton will look like. And then there's the other targets in the northern part of Finnis, so those pink dots on that previous chart. So targets like Lees Booths, Hangong, and then some more exploration in and around Finnis at Sandras, Ballados, Penfolds and Ahoy. And we're starting to do some surface testing and some drilling work on some of the other ground that's available. And from that perspective, we will then start to say, okay, how do we begin to step through the leases that are available to Core in the Northern Territory? So if I just come back to the 3 areas of focus for the team at Core is to establish the mining business in and around Grants, get the processing plant up and running. As I said, really good success of the last few weeks of trials in the concentrator. And we're into our 3rd phase to understand grade recovery, how we might be able to best optimise the current operations. The second piece is BP33, so surface work is underway. And, the early works is underway. So we've actually cleared. The team are progressing very well in that space and beginning to complete the excavations for that infrastructure, and shortly we'll start on the box cut. And then the third piece is understand what's available to Core across the leases. I'd also like to call out the Core team on site. I think in the last 12 months it's been a very impressive delivery. So we've seen them uncover ore in around about September. We had a mine opening in October. We then went through our first, we actually produced our first product, DSO, that they transported to the port before the end of December. And then we shipped in early January. We then saw our first concentrate, or construction complete and concentrate, produced in February, and in the last few months, in the last quarter, we've sailed our first 2 cargoes of concentrate. We were able to sell them through a commercial arrangement for prepayment, so it enabled, it was a good cash flow, good de-risking of that period of operations. As many of you in the audience will appreciate, that's often a tight time for a business like ours. In hindsight, the team actually delivered the cargo to the spec in the time that we told the customer we would. So they did a very good job. We probably didn't need to do that in hindsight, but I think it was a good move from managing the business perspective. And we are now producing our first concentrate cargo that is beginning to be transported to the port that will fill the offtake agreements with Ganfeng and Yakwa. And we are also in the process of producing fines. And fines is a great, I guess, intermediate step to kind of give us some space to manage the recovery from the concentrator and improve the performance of that plant. So we're not losing that volume, that lithium volume at all. In fact, we've been able to turn that into a commercial product. So operational delivery, sustained growth, ESG, and also working very closely with our team to make sure that Core is a place that people enjoy working with or working within, and that they have a pathway. They see that there's a great opportunity. So thank you very much for the time today. So Core Lithium, we've started early. We are beginning to learn how to become a mining operator, and we're transitioning very, very fast to understanding what that growth profile for Core might look like.
Thanks very much, Gareth. We've had a question come through on the chat here. Is a flotation circuit required at the production facility to lift recoveries?
Yeah, so there's probably 3 phases that we're looking at in terms of recoveries. The first is to optimise the plant. As I said, we're in the third kind of package of trial work, if you like, at the moment. So optimise the current plant. In parallel with that, sell the fines that we see coming through to the tailings facility, and we're able to do that. The second phase is to look at how we might find an intermediate project or capital solution, which could be a press filter or a belt filter or something like that. And then the third phase would be a flotation circuit. So both of those pieces of work, the filter press or the flotation, we need to do the work on. The flotation circuit is probably better attached to a project like BP33 when you think about 10 million tonne of resource and the mine life that might be available to us there.
Great, thank you. Folks, please thank Gareth Manderson.